Hello and welcome to LTWS Backstage Chronicles, where we take you behind the scenes of the Little Theater of Winston-Salem. I'm your host, Jessica Perry, and we are excited to bring you an inside look at the incredible people, productions, and creative process that make our shows come to life. In this episode, we'll be discussing the plot, themes, and significance of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And hearing from director Elizabeth Rief, David Bricquet, who is playing Philip Lombard, Rene Walek, who's playing Vera Claythorne, and Rob Bullington, who's playing Sir Lawrence Wargrave. Whether you are a theater enthusiast or a longtime theater supporter, or just curious about what happens behind the curtain, you're in the right place. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the LTWS Backstage Chronicles. It's found on all major streaming platforms, so you never miss an episode. And if you'd enjoy today's show, please leave us a review. It really helps us reach more listeners. So let's dive in. So I am with everybody here today, and we've got about 2.5 weeks left before opening night. How excited is everybody?
I'm excited to hear that there's still 2.5 weeks. Sometimes it feels like it's right around the corner, you know. And it's, I mean, we're right in the middle of it right now. We have kind of still a long way to go. There's lots of stuff to still come together.
That is true. It seems like it's right around the corner, but in rehearsal time, it's still quite a long time to work on things.
It's not that long.
Yeah, we're making good use of our time.
Yeah. Professionals usually rehearse for 3 weeks, but that's 3 weeks of 8-hour days, right? When you're equity, you've got an 8-hour workday. We've got 3 hours at night, so 3 weeks, 5 weeks isn't that long.
Have you done equity work before? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yes, that would be fun. Intensive. No, we give a little bit longer than that. How long has been the rehearsal process?
We have 6 weeks
6
plus.
6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and then tech.
So
Yeah.
double.
But
Well,
that's
you know,
3 hours. It's
we're
really,
community.
it's really,
It's really
less,
when you do the
yeah.
math, it doesn't come out even as much.
Elizabeth, what drew you into directing And Then There Were None?
So I grew up, I'm looking at another fellow reading enthusiast, but I grew up as a book lover, and my earliest books were mysteries. And then I can remember like family afternoons where we would watch Sherlock Holmes, Charlie Chan, Miss Marple, Hercule Poirot, different movies and things like that. So I really just love the richness of her stories. And she was so prolific and had so many different ideas for her plots, her locations, her characters. I was really excited and ready to challenge myself because I had not directed for Little Theater before. So I wanted to do something different. And the 90th season and marking my 30 years with the organization is something I wanted to do. So I was like, look, there's a mystery. I'm so in for this. So it has been really exciting I spent a lot of time working on paper with different color pens and pieces from game boards. And, you know, sometimes those things still happen in rehearsal with the live people. But, you know, they're live people bring in so much more creativity, energy, their own ideas. So it's been really great to watch not just the 3 people in the room with me right now, but the other 7 as well, bring these characters to life and really shape the story and, you know, make it their own.
Have they influenced anything in your directing like you didn't expect?
I mean, things come up. Like last night, Renee thought I was writing down I was writing a note, and she knew it was about her, and she thought it was going to be a bad note. But I was like, no, you gave me all the feels in that moment. So it was really great. So, you know, but I really tried. I mean, I spent a lot of my time dealing with the technical side of things. So it's been really interesting to spend more time digging in with actors and what motivates them and what they need. And I really wanted to hear what their ideas were. So it's been, I think, a great partnership.
So let's take a minute and touch up on who you are, who you're playing, a little bit about your characters. David, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm David Bricquet. I'm playing Philip Lombard. Lombard is obviously the smartest of anybody in Agatha Christie's. Also, I understand he's probably the best looking and also the most modest. But he is adventurer, kind of a little bit of a scoundrel if you're looking towards the stock character. He's like a rogue with a heart of gold, you might say, a little bit, and sometimes not a very tarnished heart of gold.
Oh, there we go. That's better.
But he falls into more of the rogue, I guess, type of character. He is very, in some ways, I think he can be very cerebral, but he's a man of action. If he sees something, he goes after it. If he wants it, he takes it, sometimes without regard for what other people think. He's fun to play.
What about you, Renee?
I am Rene Walek, and I play Vera Claythorne. Vera is brought to the island as the secretary of the owner of the island. She thinks she's coming to work in paradise, and then things kind of shift, as Agatha Christie does. She's actually the smartest one there.
Probably.
Sorry, Lombard. But she plays it a little closer to the vest, and you get to experience a lot of the story through her kind of perspective and what she experiences, which is really fun to play because I get these great moments with every single one of the great actors that we have in this cast. So it's been a joy, yeah.
Looking at you, Rob.
I'm Rob Bullington. I play Sir Lawrence Wargrave, who is clearly the smartest character in the play. He's a retired judge, had the reputation of being a very strict authoritarian when it came to the law, and he's got a very strong sense of what's right and wrong. He's also really, he's got a lot of leadership skills. The characters in the play sort of rally around him and will kind of defer to him. I mean, they call him Sir Lawrence, which is nice. I mean, I never know whether they're talking about Sir Lawrence Olivier or Sir Lawrence of Arabia, but I'll answer to either one.
So what's rehearsals been like? Just getting together, rehearsing this show. Like, how's the interaction between the other cast members?
Well, overall, I think it's been very, very, collegiate and good, and we all getting along. I didn't know anybody really going into this except for Donna, who plays his character I can't remember right now.
Emily Brent.
Yes. She plays Emily Brent. I worked with her before the show before this. She played my mom, and we came in, knew her very well, but everybody else was new to me, and Elizabeth new to me for the most part, and we've been getting along great. Actually, the other night I went out to have drinks with Craig, and that was
Nice.
know him a little bit better.
Renee's like, you didn't invite me?
No, well,
show up.
Yeah, that was not a night I was at rehearsal.
So it's a cliquish cast, is that?
No, not at all. We were going to study lines, and then it turned into, let's study
Study.
lines, but we ended up just having a drink and talking about history the whole time.
No, it's been great. And, I think I've always believed that one of the things that's so wonderful about being an actor, whether you're a professional actor or whether you're a community theater actor or whether you're in college, in your college production, you bring together this community of people for 6 weeks usually, but it's a community that works because you've got this group of people who are all focused on the prize, all focused on this one goal, right? And everything goes toward that, and there's really not room for ego or for just getting sidetracked from the main objective, which is to get the show up. The saying, the show must go on. And I think that that theater's really. I think that's why people keep coming back to it. And when people talk about getting, the bug, the theater bug. Oh, I got the bug. You hear people say that all the time, and I think what it means is that when you've had that experience and it only lasts 6 weeks and then it's over, right? It's not long before you want it again. You need another hit.
Because you get those post-show blues.
You do, and you want another hit
real.
of it. And then the next time you go do it, it's a completely different production somewhere else with a completely different set of people, completely different director, maybe a different community. But the experience is very much the same.
Rob, I find that if you want to do it again immediately, that usually means you have good people that you've worked with, and you're happy to be with them.
Yeah.
It could also be the opposite in some rare cases where you just need to take a break for a while, and that just happens for people. But no, I think for the most part, this is one of my favorite communities. I've lived in a lot of places. I just moved here recently, but this is one of my favorite communities I've ever worked in, hands down. The depth of talent here is quite extraordinary on all levels. And I find one of the problems that many communities have, particularly, is they have a hard time finding good directors. This community doesn't have that problem. There's a lot of great directors I've worked with so far, and working with another good one right now.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to piggyback on the community part too, because I was listening to Rob talk. So I came into theater in college because at my high school you really did have to be able to sing, dance, and act to do anything, and I didn't really know about the world of backstage. But I had amazing classmates in college, and I was really loath to leave that sense of community and all the happiness and joy that it brought me. I mean, yeah, there were challenges and things like that, but that working together to solve them, to put on productions was amazing. And I didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't want to go into theater professionally, because you then bring in the 8-hour day with mandatory breaks, and there's a whole different other vibe to it. And I wanted that kind of family community. So fortunately, a friend was already involved with Little Theater because she was local and said, "Oh, you should totally get involved. We have all, she knew what my skill set was." So, I mean, I started in the summer of '94 and have not looked back since. And I've worked with several companies, and I've enjoyed my experiences, but like Little Theater, I consider like my second home. So, because the people are so wonderful to work with. And, in the world of being a technician, it's like I get to work with the same people again and again, just in different shows. So it's really nice because no one has to pick me. I don't have to try audition. So it's really nice. I'm like, if I want to do that, I get to do it. So it's been really great. So I'm thankful to have had yet another great community of people to work with on this show.
Speaking of doing the picking, how difficult was it to do the picking for this production?
You had a lot of people come out for it.
First time doing the picking.
And we had, so there are 10 roles, and there are 41 people came out for the show. So it was a lot. And I would say 2/3 to 3/4 of them went for women, and we only have 3 women's parts out of the 10. So it was really hard, and because, people really brought their A game to auditions and then even ramped it up another level. Because sometimes you do the same sides at both auditions and callbacks, and I was like, "Oh no, we're going to challenge them more at callbacks." So they got the chance to like work through some of the scenes and plan things out, and it was great. So it was challenging.
And auditions were interesting because with a cast of 10 people, and she's getting a big group, and we had 2 Robs there, and we had a couple of people with multiple names, and you're trying to figure out, you're like, okay, who are you reading? And you're this one, and you're so auditions were a challenge just because the scenes have so many people in them and so many people that are pivotal to what you're doing that you had to figure it out really quickly.
Well,
Sorry.
we have quite a few first time
We do.
Little Theater what's the
Auditionees?
phrase? Yes, auditionees. That's
Some people who come to the workshop, we've been offering, the theater's been offering audition workshops as well to kind of prep people for what the experience is like. And actually one of them, Jason, whose last name just escaped me, but Jason, who plays Dr. Armstrong, went to the audition workshop on Friday, came to audition on Monday, and he is now on stage with us.
and
So-
he's never acted
wow.
on stage before.
Not at a theater. He's done work within his church and things like that. But,
But
yeah,
this is his first
yeah,
community theater
maybe, yeah.
production. That's
How
exciting.
about that?
That's exciting. I love that.
And it really is special as you're kind of building up that ensemble feeling in a cast. You have people that are new to you, and I've never worked with David or Rob, but I have worked with Elizabeth for years. I think she and I have worked together for 14 years, something around there. And then you have someone like Jason who's never worked with any of us, and there's just this really nice support system there. We're telling each other what app helps us learn our lines, and then people come back in and they're like, "Thanks for that app," and just little tricks like that, and kind of learning the process. And it's really exciting when you have someone totally new to it, because you kind of fall in love with it again, because you're like, oh yeah, like that is exciting, and you kind of take it for granted sometimes when you've been doing it a while.
Oh, I bet. It's nice having that perspective, like in the room with
Yeah.
you. It does remind you why we like what got us started in this to begin with.
Yeah, it's invigorating. It's good.
So, David, you've had to pull a little bit of a like double duty on this production.
Yeah.
So, David's been doing a lot of promotional shoots for us, and I approached him about doing promotional shoots for this production before the auditions went out, and then he auditioned and got cast. And I was like, "How are you going to shoot yourself?" Pun intended, a little bit. No, with a camera. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I've been shooting for probably since 2009 or so, and I had a business when I lived in Texas and Oklahoma. But to answer your question about shooting myself, my wife is very supportive and very much likes coming with me on many of the shoots. So she knows. Basically, she has a good eye for framing and that sort of thing. And I just put in all of the numbers, and she just shot me, and I trust her to do it. She was great.
Okay, so just off topic a little bit. I've noticed that I work with a lot of married couples in theater. They kind of come as a team package a lot of times, and I think that's amazing. I work with you and Mariah, and then Mike, who takes our show photos. I work with him and his wife, Linda, and you and Elizabeth and Sean work together. I think that's just so amazing that like we have all these people that like they come together and they either meet each other in this environment.
That's how Sean and I met. Yeah, was through theater.
So,
Yeah.
what was that like?
Oh, well, and it was
I'm
from
getting nosy
being,
now.
it was being in the audience of we were attending the same show, and we knew people involved with the production, and we had this kind of moment of they're cutting up and they shouldn't be doing that, and so we both had the same disapproving look on our face before we even met each other. And then the show was good, and we got to go to this party, and I met him at the party. And, then we were talking, you just have random chitter chatter and stuff like that. And, sometimes when people hear that you're a Latin teacher, that is not the most exciting thing to hear. But he actually listened to me talk about being a Latin teacher, and it was like, okay, this is good. So he liked hearing about my textbooks. It was really
Oh, it was the one.
Yes.
You knew then.
That's how I connected with my husband too. Like
really?
we didn't meet because we grew up together, but we got to know each other better through theater in high school, and we've been together ever since. And we've gotten to do one community show together in the last few years. I was in another kind of suspense show, and he got to be on the crew, and it's really kind of special when you get to share that with someone that you share so much of your life with, because it does become family. So when you can bring in your real family, it's extra special.
Believe it or not, my wife and I worked at the same theater. It's true. It's true. And then we lived in the same town for a while, and she actually went on to work for an opera company, and I was still with the theater. So we were working in different places. We weren't actually like working together, but we were in the same community.
Same here. To be honest, make it 4 for 4 now. Mariah and I, we met doing Jane Austen, but it wasn't normal Jane Austen. This was a Christmas Jane Austen mashup. And for the Regency dance portion, the stage manager looked at me on the very first rehearsal and said, you two look like you go together. Be dance partners. And 9 months later, we didn't date or see each other or have any romantic spark, really. We just became good friends. And over the course of 9 months, being great friends, I decided, you know what? I would like to date you. So that's what I told her.
I would like to date you. That's so sweet. Well, at least you were straightforward and to the point.
Oh yeah, that's the way to be.
So, back on topic a little bit. That was a lovely moment, though. Like love and murder. Little theater of Winston-Salem. No. So, has there been anything that's been particularly exciting or challenging about performing in a murder mystery like this?
No, Agatha Christie. She has a writing style. Anybody has their sort of writing style. It's not a contemporary style. It's not a contemporary use of language. It reminds me more of like Coward maybe. There's a style to it, and I think coming to grips with that. I mean, acting, the act of learning a text and then bringing a story to life in front of people, is the same, whether it's a mystery or a musical or a sitcom. It's the same work, you know. I don't. To me, there's nothing different about preparing this role because it's for a mystery, or preparing that role because it's for King Lear. You know, it's the same process.
So you have pretty much the same process going in. Yeah. What's your process like? Put you on the spot there.
Do you have hours?
We need the Cliff Note
Yeah.
version
We'll have
here.
to do a separate episode.
Yeah, no. Well, I always have believed that all the clues, everything you need to know to do your job as an actor is in the text, is in your text. And I'm not talking about what the editors have put in italics over the years. You know, she crosses to the table. I'm talking about what you say, right? And that's what's important. And people will try to tell you it's important to know what Hamlet is carrying in his pockets, but I guarantee you it's not.
That's interesting because I know that some directors tell you to ignore the stage directions and some want you to pay attention to them. What's your particular opinion on?
I have not felt bound to them. Sometimes the suggestions are good, but those notes were based on a set that we can't. There's not even. Sometimes scripts will come with here's what the floor plan, what the ground plan looked like for that production. So then you have a frame of reference, but there's nothing. So the set that comes with the description. It probably had. I think it had at least 3 doors to interior rooms, but that wasn't the case. But that's not what we're doing. So I'm really trying to, I would say most of the time I'm ignoring them, you know. But sometimes it's been, like the trickiest thing, I think, in blocking when I was working with my clue pieces as I was using those, is, you know, certain characters need to do certain things and other people, you know, it is a murder mystery. So things have to happen. But it also means you have to make sure that person got near that person, you know, so that they theoretically could have had. Sometimes I thought way too hard about, you know, moving person A past person B so that they could do the thing and be done. So, yeah. And then sometimes one of the people in this room was like, you know, you really don't need to worry about that so much. It's, you know, there's willing suspension of disbelief. It's okay. Somebody in this room was like, yeah, it's okay.
So there's something special about this production that isn't necessarily done everywhere.
Yes. One of the challenges.
One of the challenges. So when I was talking with Joelle, who's the executive director, about ideas for the show, when, you know, I was still being considered as the director, I said, you know, there are these 2 endings in the script. One of which is the original ending that Agatha Christie wrote in 1939. And then in 2015, her grandson, there's a forward in the script that talks about how people were like, that ending on the play doesn't match the ending in the book. So he went back to the text and wrote an ending based on the actual book. So they're 2 different endings. They have a different feeling, a different vibe. They require different lighting, different effects. So I was like, what if we did both? And then it became, what if we did both but let the audience choose which one we were doing on a nightly basis? And so that was one of the things that we pitched. We pitched when we were discussing it with the actors in the casting process, that this is something we're considering. Would you be up for that? And the people who were involved were all willing to give it a shot. So that is something that, you know, the audience will have some say in how things turn out. It's just a little bit of a choose your own adventure.
I feel like the Little Theater gets a good book reading crowd that comes to see the show.
So they may know, yeah.
So they may know.
Can't stress enough, though, that the 2 endings are very different.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
We don't want to talk too much about them, but yeah.
No, we can't give
They
too
will
much
leave you with
away.
different feelings.
So come and see the show and vote.
Come twice, and then you can influence it one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great way to come and see it multiple times and have a different show each time. Walk
Yes.
away with a different feeling. So how have you guys been feeling practicing the multiple different endings? Without giving too much away, do we have a particular fave?
Yes.
Yes, I think there is one that when it is rehearsed, everyone in the room is a little bit more like, oh, that was fun. And that was, kind of more intense. And then, because it is two different feelings. So there is one where we feel more intense in the room. And then there is one where, just script-wise, is a little more abrupt.
That's a good word.
And so we all kind of in the room go, oh, that's the one we're doing tonight. And so both will leave audiences thrilled that they came. But it is a different vibe in the room because it's a different vibe leaving the audience, too.
Has there been any particular challenges, like acting with certain endings? Again, without giving too much away.
It's hard to talk about that.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
difficult.
One thing that we've all sat down and done, though, is we've gone through the script and it feels like it's identical up to a certain point, but there are very, very small hints of differences that when learning the lines have had to be acknowledged and noticed and are kind of key pivotal plot things when you really think about them. So that is a challenge for those that are doing it, is knowing those intricacies and where they're coming and which ending has which plot point at which point.
So audiences will get to pick before the show, so the cast will know which ending we're going with, so that they'll know, and that way those things that need to be highlighted more with one ending versus the other will get that attention.
And it's different sound cues, it's a different costume piece, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a lot of differences.
Well, one thing I've noticed, I know this show can be kind of dark and intense, but like at the beginning, I've noticed when I'm setting on the read through how funny, like the first act is.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of humor in there, which I don't recall there being a ton of humor in Murder on the Orient Express.
No.
So this one feels a little bit different in a way from Agatha Christie's normal. But you are the Agatha Christie expert in the room.
I mean, it just depends. She has different characters. This is one that is, it isn't a Poirot. It's not a Miss Marple or the one with Tuppence, the other, the two of them. But it's one of those things where she creates an environment and she doesn't want it to be immediately evident that something bad is going to happen or things are going to take a turn. So, I think that's kind of a consistent.
There's still some things that are kind of funny even after everything starts to go sideways.
Some of the relationships and just some of the character traits, especially some of the ways that the actors, what they're bringing to those roles.
It's all character-driven humor. There's nobody slipping on banana peels or anything like that.
What's one thing you would like someone to take away from this production?
Oh, you mean like the audience? I thought you meant take away, like we're not going to do. I was like, I briefly was concerned.
Yeah.
Like, you mean to leave
we
with?
cutting
To leave with, yes.
Oh, okay.
To leave with.
That's a really tough one with this particular show, simply because it's not. I don't find it to be terribly moral. It's very ambiguous in its morality. Many of the characters, they're not they're very morally gray. In fact, I would say all of them are morally gray, and that's probably what, to me, is so interesting about doing this as an actor and watching it as an observer. So, Rob, I think one of you said that this is a particularly more literary crowd that we have at Little Theater.
Yeah.
And I think they would appreciate the fact that it is morally gray and life is not clean and easy, and people are messy, and emotions make us very difficult and hard to pin down. And all of these characters are like that. None of them are all good or all bad.
Also, I think if you come and you're not well versed in mysteries, or if you're not a big fan, or certainly if you've never read Agatha Christie, or if you don't know the story, I would think that it would be great fun to watch and try to figure it out. Try to figure out who done it, right? That's what they call, and that would be really satisfying if at the end of when all was said and done, you could have said, I knew that's how it was going to end, and I figured it out. Here's when I figured it out, and
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we even talked about, if you come to see it and you know what happens, and then come back and spend your time studying that person or people, we never know. But like watching to see if, we did check all the boxes when we were supposed to and things like that. But it could be interesting.
And that's why it's great to come with your friends, because you can discuss it with your friends. And if you figure it out before them, you can brag.
right.
Yeah.
So, favorite Agatha Christie novel? Does anyone have their favorites?
Oh, I do. It's And Then There Were None, because it's the only one I've read. I grew up loving mysteries, but never really read Agatha Christie. She was kind of on the periphery of my reading choices, and I just never chose to read her novels. This is actually the second Agatha Christie play that I've been in, and the other one did not have a novel accompanying it, so I didn't read it. And now I read it in preparation for the audition, and was like, oh wow, what? I need to read more Agatha Christie. So as of right now, And Then There Were None.
I mean, for me, it's going to depend. Like, I think probably Death on the Nile is one of my favorite Hercule Poirot's. The Moving Finger is an excellent Miss Marple. So is The Mirror Cracked. In terms of the ones that are outside of her typical cadre of detectives, And Then There Are None is probably one of my favorites. Yeah.
I've never read one.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Okay, so Rob's is And Then There Were None.
Yeah. So this is.
I think David
We're
is
down
over
to
there shaking
David.
his head too. Did
The
you?
only one I've read, I have to agree. The only one I've read is And Then There Were None.
I was in another one too, but I didn't. Yeah, I was in The Mousetrap
Oh.
20 years ago, 25 years ago, something like that.
This is actually the second time I've done a version of And Then There Were None. I played Marston about 20 years ago. And so this is my second time playing in this show, but I've, of course, never played in Lombard.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I wanted to do this partly because I wanted to kind of bookend this show as two different age groups, and so I'm glad that I was asked to come along on this.
4 years.
Yeah,
There we go.
There's a couple you could play.
yeah.
Oh, that is fun. You don't think about that, but being able to, that's the wonderful thing about theater is you never age out.
Right.
And so, you can play multiple different characters in the
Yeah.
same play over the course of your life. That's so much fun. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, I actually have thought about that in the back of my mind. Maybe in 20 more years, 15, 20 more years, I can play
Yeah.
Wargrave.
You tell young actors get discouraged. I taught for 26 years, taught theater in a university. And young actors get discouraged, because you're, I wonder how many 25-year-old young actors are trying to make it somewhere, New York City, Chicago, LA as actors. And it can be really discouraging, right? But you have to hang in there. You either have to hang in there or you have to come back to it because of the natural attrition, people drop off, they get married, they find other things to do that aren't theater. And pretty soon that casting pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And pretty soon you're 40, 45, and the whole world of roles opens up to you that wasn't available to you when you were 20, right? 25. So you have to stay with it.
I feel like the pool is strong enough. You'll find some form of theater. I grew up in a little small town where theater was not readily available, but I sought it out everywhere I could find it. I had to dig. It's like panning for gold. And I hit the jackpot when I moved to Winston-Salem. I was incredibly overwhelmed with just how much theater there was. It was almost a little overwhelming. It had spinning there's
so many choices.
There's so many choices, and each one unique and having their own kind of energy and vibe to them. And when I did Murder on the Orient Express, which was my first show with the Little Theater, I was addicted to the entire environment and the community and the people. And I was like, I never want to leave. I never want to leave this place. I found my home guys I'm going to move in. And then the marketing director job became available and I applied. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going anywhere.
It's very much how I felt after my first show in Little Theater, too. I was like, oh, I'll go and be in the next one, too.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed. I worked backstage, and I was on running crew for Guys and Dolls, and then I was like, oh, do I really? I think this is a good group of people, and I've done stage managing, and so I went in, was and had an interview, and I brought samples of my work, and they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to have you do that. So I've been stage managing ever since. So.
And Rob, you must like us.
I do. I love it. No,
This is your fourth production in 2 seasons?
This is my fourth show, here. And I've been here just under 3 years. Yeah. And I've heard the other actors, I've heard them talking about what it's like to work in some of the other places around town, some of the other companies and theaters. And I don't know, I kind of feel like, no, I'm Little Theater. That's me.
Your team Little Theater.
I'm Team Little Theater. I'm going to stick with them. And I may be spoiled. I think I'm spoiled because it's really. I think it's a really class operation. Very impressed with it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's the thing I think that attracted me most to wanting to work with Little Theater is everyone here. Little Theater somehow attracts people who want to do good work, it seems to me. Everybody cares about what they're doing. They want to put a quality seal on everything they do. And I appreciate that about Little Theater.
And how did you stumble upon the Little Theater?
A friend, Mike Burke, told me about Little Theater. I was working with him. The first show I was in was at another theater in town, and we were working together. And it was my first show in town, and he says, you know, David, you need to go see Little Theater. I'm doing a terrible Mike Burke impersonation. But he says, you need to go see them. They have this, volunteer weekend, and you can go find out everything you need to know and talk to people. And so I did, and I talked to Christina, and she introduced me to you. And I said, hey, you know what? I think I can do some promotional photos for you guys. Here's my portfolio. And eventually, we found a project to work on, and it all went well from there.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna speak a little candidly, be a little honest. So he popped up in my inbox, and when I'm checking somebody out, I do a little bit of snooping, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, oh, he's too handsome. He's gonna be so full of himself, but I'll talk to him.
What?
No, but that's not the case at all. Like, he come into my office, he's so down to earth, so collaborative, so open-minded, and just been really easy to work with. And I have enjoyed working with you and Mariah so much. It's become like one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to collaborate with you. Yeah.
I mean, I've been on 2 shoots with David now, and your attention to detail and wanting things to be right and coming up with clever ways to, I stage manage Ripcord, and, that's got parachuting in it, and how do we make it look like they're parachuting and that sort of thing. So no, it's greatly appreciated. And just the time you took, because again, you were like one of the last people to get dressed and organized. So you were more concerned that everyone else in the cast looked great in our photo shoot and then there were none. And you're like, okay, I'll go put my clothes on now. No, come on. You need all the time and attention and love that everybody got. So,
well, it's more about when you commit to a show, whether you're doing publicity or you're directing or acting or building the set, whatever it is, you're committing to everybody else who's part of the show, and you have to look out for each other. And if I look out for you guys when I'm doing your photos, or if I'm on stage with you and I know my lines and I've committed to my character and done all my backstory work, then hopefully you're going to look out for me too. You have to feel that way when you're in a working environment. If you care about yourself and your work and how it looks, and you care about everybody else, it'll all come together and you'll all take care of each other. That's the way it has to be.
Yeah, and I think when everyone's talking about community and this family feeling, I think what they're feeling is that everybody is there for each other. We're all there for each other in any capacity. We just want it to be good. That's it. We want it to be good. We want people to be happy when they leave. We want them to feel like they got their experience worth.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel very strongly that if we're going to put on a show, let's put on a show. We can have shows where we're saying something, we make a political statement or what have you, but it still needs to be good. People still want to see it. And so, like we're saying, if you just commit to doing good work, it'll hopefully come out. Hopefully people will respect that.
So before we go, does anybody have any last words?
You don't want to miss this show. You got to come and see it. You got to come and cast your vote for the ending.
Yes.
And then come back and see the other one and influence.
Have you figured out how
Yes.
that's going to work yet?
Yes, that's part of the theater magic, Rob.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for today's episode of LTWS Backstage Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at And Then There Were None with our director and cast members. A huge thank you to our guests for sharing their time and insights with us. And I also want to thank Such and Such Media for being Little Theater's 90th season media sponsors.
Yay.
Thank you.
If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this podcast with your friends. You can find the LTWS Backstage Chronicles on all major platforms, and of course, check out our website at www.ltofws.org for more updates on upcoming productions and events. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we explore the process of bringing a murder mystery to life as we chat with the set designer and costume designer and director for And Then There Were None. We can't wait to give you an even deeper look behind the scenes. Until next time, I'm Jessica Perry. Thanks for joining us here at the Little Theater of Winston-Salem for Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None.
Dun dun.
Running September 6th through 15 at the Haynes Brands Theater. We'll see you at the theater. The views and opinions of this podcast are those of the contributor and not necessarily those of our distributors and hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted. Use of this podcast without express permission may result in alien blood-sucking plants taking over the world. You have been warned.